Hi, today we're going to use fractions to do unit conversions. We're going to use the number 1 in a fractional representation to do our conversions because multiplying anything by 1 leaves the same number. We're going to do it in a very similar way to how we did equivalent fractions. So we'll do a couple of those first and then I'll show you the new method. So if I had the number half, I can write that in multiple forms by multiplying it by the number 1, 3 on 3 being the number 1. So if I did half times 3 on 3, I'd get 3 on 6. Again, that's equivalent to a half. I could do a half times 9 on 9. Again, all of these numbers are the same thing, right? They're equivalent representations, equivalent fractions. The reason why this number is 1 is because 9 divided by 9, how many times does 9 go into 9? It goes in once. So when we multiply by this, we don't actually change the value of the thing we're multiplying by. So let's have a look at a slightly different format of the number 1. Put the number 1 up here. If I had 1 day, so we're going to introduce units, divided by 1 day. How many times does 1 day go into 1 day? Well, it goes in once, right? Question sounds a bit weird, but if I change it slightly, it might sound a bit less weird. How many times does 1 day go into 3 days? It goes in 3 times, right? 1 day, 2 day, 3 days, right? It goes in 3 times. So this is equal to 3, this is equal to 1. Now we can write a day in a different way. We could write it like this, 1 day divided by 24 hours, right? So we've written a day in the denominator as 24 hours. And I could ask the same question. How many times does 24 hours go into 1 day? Well, it goes in once, right? I could write it this way. How many times does 1 day go into 24 hours? Well, it goes in once. So 1 is the same thing as writing it like this. This is a fractional representation of 1. And it's the same as writing like this, which is a fractional representation of 1. Now, the reason why we can write, or the reason why we would want to write 1 in this format, is because it's very useful for converting units. Keeping the original value the same, but changing it to a different format, just like we did with our equivalent fractions. So let's have a look at an example. If I wanted to convert 3 hours into minutes, and I'll just put that in brackets at the top. Let's have a look at some different representations of 1 involving hours and minutes. So we know there's 60 minutes in 1 hour. And we know there is 1 hour and there's 60 minutes here. So both of these things are equivalent. They're both representing 1. So if I multiply this 3 hours over here by either of these, I'm going to get the exact same value. But when I want to multiply, I want to do it in such a way that I can get rid of this hours and convert it to minutes. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to select the one of these with the hours on the bottom of the fraction, and I'll show you why. So if I have 3 hours times 60 minutes on 1 hour, and I multiply this out, I'm going to have 3 times 60 is 180. Hour times minute over hour. Now, if we have something common to the top and common to the bottom of a fraction, we can cancel it. Just like if we had this, 2's common to the top and the bottom, we can cancel the 2's. Just like that example, here we've got hours as common to the top and the bottom, so we can cancel it. And what we're left with is 180 minutes. And you can see by doing that, we've converted our 3 hours to 180 minutes. Are they different values? No, they're the same thing. They're just expressed in a different format. One is hours, one is minutes. They're both the same length of time. We've just converted the units from one to another. So let's have a look at another example. Let's do 120 seconds, and we want to convert it to minutes. So in this case, we've got multiple representations of 1 between these two units. We could write, oops, not that, 60 seconds in 1 minute, and 1 minute in 60 seconds, which is a bit of a weird way to say it, but it's true. Again, we want to multiply such that the seconds cancel out, so we're going to pick this one here. I can cancel these units, and if we look at what's left, we've got 120 times 1 minute, which is 120 minutes, divided by 60, and that is just 2 minutes. And you can see that we've done the conversion of this to this. Both the same quantity of time, but expressed in a different way. Now I could do, and it's mathematically valid, to multiply this by this and get an answer. So if I'm to do that, I'm going to have 120 by 60. I'm not 100% sure what that is. We get 7,200 seconds times seconds over a minute. Now, this is mathematically valid, but I don't know what the real world significance is of this, if there is any significance. So even though we can do it, and this thing here is equivalent of this, we know it's equivalent because this fraction here is 1, and if we multiply anything by 1, we don't actually change the value. So while we can do this, we would probably never do it because this sort of value is useless to us, right? So when we're doing it, we're making sure that we've got it such that our units, one's on the numerator, one's in the denominator, so they can cancel, and then we're left with the target unit. Now we can do slightly more complicated unit conversions where we do sort of a chain of them, and this will be my last example. So let's say we wanted to convert 2 hours, and we wanted to convert it into seconds. So the first thing we can do is, if we don't know how many seconds in 1 hour, we can do a partial one, right? We can first convert to minutes. So I want my hours to be on the bottom, and I know there's 60 minutes in 1 hour. Now if I cancel my units here, I've got 2 times 60, which is 120, and I'm left with minutes. So this whole thing here is equivalent to 120 minutes, but we want to convert to seconds. So I'm going to convert my minutes to seconds. I know I want my minutes on the bottom, and I'm going to put my seconds on the top, and I've got 60 there. I can then cancel my minutes, and I'm going to be left with seconds. Now, I don't necessarily need to write this in the middle. I can say what's left in my fraction. I have 2 times 60 times 60s is on the top, and on the bottom we have 1 times 1, and that's all that's there. So if I put that into my calculator, 2 times 60 times 60, it's going to tell me how many seconds I have. I think that is the same number we had before. Yeah, it is. We got 7,200 seconds. So that's unit conversions. We're using our value of 1 to convert from one format to another without changing the actual value of that original thing. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you for the next one. This video accompanies a worksheet series which aims to develop conceptual understanding around fraction arithmetic. If you'd like to access the worksheets, click on the link in the description.